Hello, everyone. Tonight, I want to welcome you to the special edition of Let's Be Real About It, the round table, where we are real about real life issues. I am your host, Mildred Towns. Our disclaimer for the show is that this is a no holds barred zone. Therefore, some of the contents of the show may be offensive to some, but that is not the intent of the show. Uh, the topics that we will be talking about tonight will be coming directly from our special guest book tonight, which we're going to introduce you to her as well as to her book. I just wanted to make sure that you knew that. And I want to thank our sponsors for tonight, Zion City of Deliverance and J&K Style Grill.
What up, y'all? Your boy back on stage. We here at J&K Style and Grill with my main man.
J&K Style Grill, home of the original waffle burger, stuffed wings, and Philly steak egg roll.
The food was amazing, man. I'm talking about collard green stuffed chicken, mac and cheese stuffed chicken, waffle burger with the special sauce.
With the special sauce.
Come on, man. What are you doing if you ain't eating here? You're wasting your life.
Pull up.
J&K Style Grill, you can copy the style.
But never the spec.
We got it.
We got it.
So anytime you all is in the Virginia Beach area, please go by J&K Style Grill. Just look them up and say, hey, I heard about you on Let's Be Real About It, and just show your support to them. Before I introduce our special guest tonight, I want to introduce our panel for tonight. So if we could get them on, which is Shanita Pittman and Juanita Lightfoot. So we're going to start with you, Shanita. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
I am Shanita Pittman. I kind of do some of the background work for the show. I am Mildred's niece, and
yes,
I really enjoy this show. There's so many wonderful stories to tune into and life-changing stories. So I know tonight is going to be another one of those moments.
Yes, and our other panelist is Juanita Lightfoot. You all may remember her because she was a special guest on the show back July or August, and the title of her show was I Was Lost But Now Found. So I want to thank her for coming as well as Shanita. So Juanita, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, I'm Juanita Lightfoot, born and raised out of Flint, Michigan. I am very excited to be on the show today to engage on what we're going to be talking about today. But I'm so grateful to be on this panel with you lovely, lovely women. So not only do I want to engage, I want to learn from you all. So I'm excited. Thanks for having me.
Praise God. Praise God. Praise God. And if you all have not seen her story, please go back through YouTube on I Heard Ministry page, and please pick up her story and listen to her story, because I guarantee you that it's going to change your life. It's going to change your life, because she threw out some red flags that we are to look for in relationships. So some that have stuck with me and some that have stuck with Shanita that we constantly talk about. Yes. So we really appreciate you. Yes. So we really appreciate you, and thank you both for taking your time to come on the show. So I want to go ahead and introduce our special guest for tonight, Myshica Martin.
Hi, everybody.
Hey. She's the author of 40 Years, 40 Lessons, which we will be discussing tonight at the table. So Myshica, go ahead and introduce yourself.
As you said, my name is Myshica Martin. I am the author of 40 Years, 40 Lessons, as well as the co-author of Dwelling Together, the Purpose, the Principles of Marriage with my husband. And as a profession, I work as a nurse, and but writing is my passion. And so I have soon to release my fourth book, No Counselor, No Problem. And I am just so honored that you guys would have me on the show to sit with women that have inspired me. I don't know you, Miss Juanita, but Shanita and Mildred, of course, have inspired my journey. And many of the lessons that I write about in this book has come from just dwelling amongst these women. So I'm honored to be here.
We are honored to have you here.
Yes.
And each of the panelists, as well as myself, has chosen 3 to 4 lessons to discuss tonight. Uh, so I know it's going to be a blessing. We got an hour. So, we're going to have to dive into this, and some of the stuff we're going to have to kind of keep it kind of short because we got so much to go on tonight. I know we won't get to all of it, you guys, but as much as we can. So we're going to start with Shanita and what lesson that she wanted to discuss.
Okay, my first is lesson 3. You teach people how to treat you. Now, I have to tell you, it was so hard to pick one lesson because this book is absolutely phenomenal. But you said something. You said it starts with us accepting the act of dishonor against ourselves.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. That is, ground zero, right?
Yeah.
Will you talk a little bit about where you're coming from when you say that? It starts with us accepting the act of dishonor against ourselves.
Yeah, well, first, a little bit of a backdrop. I actually wrote this book because I wanted a way to encapsulate some of the lessons that I've learned in my life to pass down to my daughters. If you have daughters, you know how many, just trepidations they have in life. And when they're going through it, they don't necessarily understand it. And so many of these lessons just really came out of our talks, our personal talks. And this particular one is so personal to me. All of them are personal, but especially this one, because I am a person, as you know, I give wholeheartedly to everything and everybody, right? And so one of the lessons that I've had to learn is that when you are good to people, you expect them to be good to you. Right. But everybody doesn't, they don't show up in the way that you show up. And so one of these lessons that I had with my daughter was you teach people how to treat you. In other words, if you invested the time, the skill, the experience, the expertise in becoming a good person, you have to then choose who you're good to. And when you've invested that into yourself, you reserve the right to say, no, not on my watch. You are not going to treat me this way because I'm too good of a person. And so that line that you brought up, it starts with us accepting the act of dishonor against ourselves. I think that when we've done the work just to be good people, we can say, you know what? You don't get to dishonor me, and I get to choose who I allow in my life.
Girl, that's powerful. You get to choose who you give power, who you give authority to, in your life. Wow.
And I also, and with that, you said abuse requires your permission.
Yeah.
And that the death of your dignity requires your surrender.
Absolutely.
Woo!
That speaks for
itself,
right? Yeah, that speaks for itself. And I've been in an abusive relationship because of the person I am. It only took one. It only took one relationship for me to say, you are not going to treat me like this. I am worth the investment of faithfulness. I am worth the investment of love and loyalty. And I will accept nothing less. So, yeah.
Wow. And if every one of us would take that, and say, hey, no, I'm worth more than that. You're not going to treat me like this. But then sometimes we allow our hearts to get so into it.
Oh, yeah.
We can't back up and say, because we're worried about how he's going to feel, what he's going to say, and so we just get into this little shell and allow them to do us any kind of way.
Yeah. I always tell my daughter, you can be in love, but take your brain with you. And I think that's what happens with a lot of women. We allow ourselves to fall in love and we take away the cognition, right? We take away the thought process of it. So we want so badly to be in relationships that we accept abuse. And I think that's how it starts. That first of all, we have to fall in love with ourselves. That's a journey in itself. That's a lesson that it took me, sadly, 40 years to learn to fall in love with myself, where I don't necessarily, and I don't mean this in a vague way, but I don't necessarily just clamor after relationships because I'm missing something within. You know, when you have it within, you only accept good or better around you.
And I was going to just say one thing with the love part. I feel like a lot of times, a lot of people never saw a real image of what love is.
Absolutely.
So a lot of times they get accepted into just something that's being said. You know, I know within my first time ever considering myself being in love, you know, it was in the sense of a physical a domestic violence situation. That's what it turned to. But then this person would say, they would hit me and then say, oh, well, I love you. I hit you because I love you. So being a young-minded person, you start to now see this as what love is. So even from moving past that, you still never had a really good sense of what love is. And so when you don't see it around you, so now it's like you're at this false hope of what love is. So then that's where you get pulled into not knowing how to even treat yourself because you're allowing people to treat you any old kind of way. You're allowing that abuse. So one of the ones I even put was, no, I would not accept your abuse. And I love that chapter because it's like, it's not even just saying, it's not even about just physical abuse. It's like there's so many mental abuse relationships, so many emotional abusive relationships. And you have to be within yourself to say, you know what, I'm not going to accept that. And so I love that chapter. I really did. I really love that chapter, how you touched on that.
Thank you so much. And great points that you bring out. Absolutely.
So, Myshica, did you want to go in more in detail with that? I will not accept your abuse.
No, I think that lesson, many of these lessons, particularly, they tie into each other, really. Except, you know, just with a different title and, of course, with a different experience. So the no, I will not accept your abuse, it really just goes back to what I said before. When you've invested a considerable amount of time, even if you don't grow up without a present father and you are looking for that validation, life has a way of teaching you. And that's the beautiful thing about it, I think. Because I've met women who didn't have a good relationship with their mother, or they never knew their father, but God brought along mentors. Oprah Winfrey is one of those people who didn't have a relationship with her father or her mother. And I'm not saying that that is not an excuse. It definitely is a valid excuse, but I love the way God works. What we're lacking, if we're willing to learn, he'll bring it about, even if he has to use other people.
Yes. And one of mine is lesson 2, protect your investment. Investing way too much time in people who had absolutely no interest in returning that investment.
Or they don't have the capacity, or they just don't have it. They lack it. I think in this particular lesson, I haven't had time to actually skim through the book, but I think in this particular lesson, I talk about how I gave my daughter. Is this the lesson that I gave my daughter the bag with the coins, or is this not the one?
I think that is the one. Let me check it. I think that is the one.
Yeah, it is. I'm looking at
it now. That
Oh.
is the one. My daughter actually came home one day, many days when she was in a particular sport, and every day she would just cry and be so upset, about this particular friend. She would stop by the store and buy this girl snacks, she would just give her, money, and she would just pray for her. And this girl literally just turned her back on her, just betrayed her, went and found other friends, And one of the things that I taught London specifically is I gave her a bag, and I told her, I'm going to give you this bag, and there are coins in this bag. And she didn't know that there was a hole in the bag. And so when I put the coins in the bag, the coins fell through the hole. So she was not able to retrieve anything from the bag. And I told her, protecting your investment is like that. You can give so much to a person, but when it's time for you to get something back, you get nothing. And that leaves us bitter, unnecessarily bitter. And it stops us from being who God has called us to be. It stops us from being givers, right? Because when you give so much and it's time for you to give back and you get nothing, you get angry, you get bitter, you get despondent, and you get to the point where you don't want to give anymore, right? And so God doesn't want that for us. And so what we have to do is we have to protect our investment, which requires a bit of wisdom, and it requires a bit of knowledge and forethought. And that's one thing that I wanted to really bring out in this particular lesson about investments. You know, you wouldn't invest or go in partnership with someone who has no money, right? You wouldn't do that naturally. So why do we invest in friendships when they really show us who we are or what they lack?
Regardless of the reason why they're like that,
yes,
still, you know,
absolutely,
regardless of your background, this
absolutely
is where you are, and this isn't what I desire.
Absolutely. There's a lesson also in there that says, I'm having a brain fog right now, but it says, what you think of me is not my business. And if we flip that around, I get to decide whether or not I like your personhood.
Right.
You know, I get to decide whether or not I like your energy and whether or not I accept your energy in my space. And I think that's something that women in general that we have to learn continually. That's not just a lesson that we learn in our teens and 20s. We have to learn it in our 40s. We have to relearn it again in our 50s.
So have y'all found that it's hard with some people that may be in your life, and they may have been in your life so long that you know that you're not getting an investment back from them being in your life? They just really just there. That is hard to cut people off.
It is, but one of the things that I would say, Auntie, go ahead.
No, you're fine. I done got dirt. My light done went off. No, I don't know what happened. I don't know what's going on. My lights. But no, I was gonna just say that touch on. I know you had said about Maya Angelou, and that's one of my favorite poets ever is Maya Angelou, and so she has a great quote that. A great quote, I'm sorry, that when a person shows you who they really are, you have to believe them the first time. And so a lot of times we as women, I know I am, we like to try to think we could change a person, or if we do this, then maybe that person will change the way that I want them to be, or if I do more. And we have this big heart, we have this high optimism of thinking that we can do something different. And like she just said, protect your investment. So you keep putting more and more and more into this investment, and you're not getting no fruit or the return on it. And so it's like, right. And so you just said about a person getting bitter. So what advice would you have for a person when they get to this point of bitterness? Like how would you say to help them now steer back away from a bitter heart, but go more towards being better and get towards healing?
Is that question for me?
Yes.
Is that question for me? Well, first, I think we have to start with the advice that Maya gave, right? When someone shows you who they are, you have to believe them. And I think this part is added, but if it's not, I'll add this too. You have to believe it the first time. When someone shows you who they are, that's who they are. You know, the old people say if it walks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, it is a duck. You know. Now, I'm going to throw your question to Auntie Mildred. That's what we call her. That's what I call her, because I think there is a grace that comes over you as you age, that you learn to tolerate people's foolishness. And I think that you can give space. One of the things that I'm learning, even after I've written this book, I've learned that that there are some people that really can't help how they are. And you have to be big enough, right, to consume, that baggage or whatever they're bringing, and give what you give and walk away. One of the things that Maya Angelou says too that I love, I can forgive you, but that doesn't mean I have to bring you to my house and feed you a pot of greens. And I think at some point you get to that place with the Holy Spirit working in you where you realize what is really at play in these people, whether it's, they need to be healed, whether it's jealousy, whether it's whatever it is, indifference, and you can recognize that and still protect yourself. And this is how I protect myself. I just leave you on read. That's not necessarily a good thing, which is why I'm going to throw it over to Auntie, because that's where I am right now. I can interact with you and not like you at all. And I protect my heart from you. I give you what I need to give you, but then I walk away with my heart still intact. So maybe Auntie can have some advice for you, but I don't. That's all I got.
One thing about that, my grandmother would always say, some people you just have to feed with a long handle spoon.
Yeah.
I mean, they can still be in your life, but at a distance.
Yeah.
And you asked how to stop the bitterness from coming. Is that what you asked?
Well, I was asking if somebody's watching, because we're talking about protecting your investments. And so one of my things was protecting your heart. And so they kind of go in together. So I'm just saying, with a person, they've let their guard down. They invested so much into these relationships to where now they see and they got the back end of it. They got the shorter stick. And so now they done fell into a point of being bitter. And so that's what I was saying. Like, if this person fell into this bitterness because they done gave all of this away, they done gave away their time, hopefully money, probably money, all this other stuff they done gave to this person just for nothing. So what advice would you have for them as far as to get out of that bitterness? Because bitterness is gonna come when you get to that place. And how
I'm sorry, I misunderstood your question. I misunderstood your question. Auntie, if you want to finish answering that, if you have something.
Because sometimes, just like with an investment, some investment, you get a profit. Some investments, you have to count your losses.
Yeah.
So in some cases, to keep the bitterness from setting up, you have to just count it as a loss.
Yeah.
I just got to let this go because this is not beneficial for me. And I'm just going to count it, as a loss. And one thing that the Bible says, before that bitterness set in, if your enemy hunger, give them something to eat. If they thirsty, give them something to drink. We have to always walk in forgiveness. I forgive you, for what you did, but yet I can feed you with a long handle spoon. You're not beneficial for my life and for my area. You can't get in my space.
Yes, that's good.
You can't get in my space. You don't fit in my space. You can fit over there, but not right here in my space.
That's so good. Yeah.
So somebody else may have another answer, Nita.
Well, everything you guys said, and you said something really interesting. As quoting the Bible, as Christians, we want to be heroes. We want to rescue. We want to heal the world. Many of us are so abused by people, but we feel like, we're doing the Christian thing. Right. Whereas, as you were saying, that space between some people doesn't mean you hate them. It doesn't mean you don't wish them the best. It's just that I need to have space between us in order to keep my peace. And that's one of the things, like, I'm not big on cutting people off, but I'm big on making space between us.
Yes.
I have no problem with, as you said, the older I get, the longer my long handled spoon gets. Because, like you were saying, believe the person the first time. Like, one of the things that I'm learning to do is not communicate with a person based on their potential. I want to know you based on who you are.
Right.
And so, when that happens and you're just looking for the genuine people, even if, I was telling somebody, I said, I have a friend that tell lies all the time. I'd rather be around them than somebody that act like, they act like a certain thing, or act like, they're pretending, they're living in pretense. Give me the person that tell the lies, because I know they lie.
Right.
instead of the person that live in pretense. And so I think it's very important, like I said, to acknowledge that I have a friend, somebody that I call a friend, who switched things around a lot. But I feel safer with that person than I do with somebody that's sitting and listening and devising and, want to steal your people. You have friends, sometimes they want to steal your identity. Protecting your investment. You talk about our daughters. I tell my daughter all the time, be careful about jealous friends. The moment they say something negative about you and they still want to be around you because they want to know all of your secrets of what makes you you. And so you have to be careful, even in the church. Whatever you're part of, you have that. And so you give those people, you look at them, you see them, you smile, and you give them what you want them to have.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Juanita, I'll end with this. I know that your question is based for those who may be watching, who may have this question. So one of my favorite lessons in this book is don't forget God. And the reason why I put that at the end, I put my favorite, the number 1 and number 40 is my favorite. The reason why I say that is because we can never, ever underestimate the power and the work of the Holy Spirit. As she said, as Mildred said before, forgiveness really does free us. Because the truth of the matter is we get into all kinds of stuff because of foolishness, because we just don't understand, because of life, and we make these mistakes, and they're honest mistakes sometimes. But you have to forgive yourself and you have to forgive others. And after that forgiveness comes awareness. My father would always tell me, it's never a loss if you learn. It's never a loss if you learned. If you walked away from something and you learned the lesson, you won. Even if it hurts you, because there's a meme that goes around, and I love this meme. It said, a lot of things broke my heart, but it fixed my vision. A lot of things broke my heart, but it fixed my vision. And sometimes you have to appreciate the exchange because, even Christ tells us in this life, we will have trouble. Whether that trouble is a man that we had no business hooking up with, whether that trouble is a friend that we love that betrayed us as that, what happened to Jesus. We can come out on the other side of it better people. So always forgive. Always forgive.
Yeah. So my next one, and then I'm gonna go from after I give this one, then Shanita, and then Juanita. Number 7, clap for your D self.
Yes.
They say when you share your excitement with someone else about your accomplishment and their response isn't with enthusiasm, clap for your D self.
Yes. Yes. Out of respect for your audience and for your platform, I will not say the word. But y'all know me, I feel it deep down in my note. Yeah, because, that resonates with you when you've worked hard to accomplish something and you tie that accomplishment to the approval. Especially this happens in religious circles because, early on, we're taught if they don't approve you, that you're not approved of. Right. And that's not true, and that's not true. But in this particular lesson, I had to learn it the hard way. I did the work to achieve something that I wanted to achieve. And I was really proud of it. My husband was proud. My children were proud. And I thought to myself, I have one more bridge to cross. And I told this woman, and her response to me, it broke me, honestly. It broke me, and it made me feel like my accomplishment was nothing. And I had worked a few years for this. And I remember grieving over that for a few days, maybe even a week or so. And all of a sudden, I got this pride again that welled up in my heart concerning this accomplishment. And I won't say it was the Holy Spirit now. But it was if something just came over me and it said, clap for your D self. And that just liberated me. It liberated me from her approval. And it also liberated me to enjoy my accomplishment, even if I had to clap for myself.
Clap for yourself.
Yeah.
Clap for yourself. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because everybody not gonna clap for you. Everybody
No,
Yes.
doing
no.
what you're doing. Everybody ain't gonna, say, you're doing a wonderful job. Oh, I just love what you're doing. No, you gotta learn to appreciate yourself and be, and just what you said, clap. Hey, step on the back, clap for yourself.
Absolutely. And another layer to that, which helps me to do this even more for myself as I accomplish more, is that everybody that's clapping for you ain't happy anyway.
Not
They
happy.
not.
So you can't even attach their clapping to their being happy or even equate the two, because people can clap right in your face and bring you a gift. And as you said, hating on you and praying for your downfall.
Mhm.
So you have to learn to celebrate yourself. And hopefully, this is something that I tell my daughters, and this is what I hope for. And I tell my son this too. If you keep being good, life will reward you with good. And I've gotten to a place where I have genuine friendships. I've gotten to a place where I have people who are genuinely happy for me. And hopefully that will be the path for everybody that just keeps doing good, but they are feeling weary in this season. Like nobody's celebrating me, nobody's happy for me. If you keep being good, good will find you in this life. I'm living proof of that.
Mhm.
Amen.
Shanita?
I'm sorry.
Nita?
Oh, okay. So my next one is lesson 6.
Mhm.
No more burnt toast.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna read this little bit. You said, taking care of yourself is not selfish, rather it is self-full.
Hmm.
And you said a healthy mother and wife begins with a healthy woman. We are of no use to anyone else if our energy is depleted because we have given the best to everybody else and left crumbs for ourselves.
Yeah.
That is so great
Hmm.
because that happens so often, being a mother, being a wife, just trying to make sure everybody else's life is so well put together
Hmm.
and you can lose yourself. You talked about feeding everybody this huge breakfast
Hmm.
and you get the burnt piece of toast that you were going to scrape off and eat, but your husband stopped
Hmm.
you.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. So one morning, I had cooked a big breakfast as I usually do, and I had, made toast. That was like the end. You put your toast. I'm that type of mom and wife, like many of you. I want my kids to eat the best. I want them to feel the best. My husband, I'm a servant at heart, and so I always feed them first. I always eat last, and so I had fixed everybody's plate. I was making toast because I wanted it to be, light brown and crisp. And I put everybody, because, there are only 4 slots. Well, back then it was only 4 slots in my toaster. And everybody's toast came out perfect. And it was my time for my toast. And so I put the toast in the toaster, but I got busy serving or talking or laughing or whatever. And my toast was burnt. And so I didn't say anything. I just went over to the sink and started to scrape it off. And I was going to eat it anyway. My husband removed the toast from my hand, and he said, "You're not going to eat this." And he made me another slice. And that's the beauty of having a husband that sees you and values you as well, which is a whole nother story. But that lesson in particular, I have to say, that was the first time as a mother and as a wife that I said, it's okay to put me first. Right? It's okay, because I mean, he would send me to like the spa and, to get my nails done, but I was always rushing, because I always did it in a hurry, and it would always just really irritate me that they would take so long, 40 minutes to do my toes and nails, and because I was always in servant mode. I got to get back to the children. I have to make this. I have to do this. I have to pick this up. And when he did that for me, something broke in me. Something happened in me where I realized I am worth it too. You know, I am worth self-care. And for me, especially this year, I don't know about anybody else, but this year especially feels like a self-care year. You know, it feels like you've taken a whole bunch of crap for the last 4 or 5 years, but this year is a me year. It's the time where I'm investing into myself. I'm doing what I like, you know. If I want to take 2 hours at the nail salon, I'm taking 2 hours at the nail salon. And the flip side of that is when you give to yourself, even pamper yourself, you are a better wife, you are a better friend, and you are a better mother.
And one thing that I wanted to say is when you do that, you're raising the standard in the lives of those who are watching you, your children.
Yeah.
They're understanding that I can make sure of myself as well.
Mm-hmm.
And real quick, I want to read this last thing and then, move on to everybody else. But you said self-care and self-love are a preventative against bitterness that sometimes arises as a result of being a good caregiver.
Absolutely.
I thought that was very powerful because you're talking about while you're doing all of this work for everybody else, bitterness can grow within you because you're thinking, what about me?
Yeah.
What about me?
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought that was very powerful because that happens so often.
Yeah, it does. And I don't even think that we realize how often it happens. I actually think that that is one of the reasons why you can be married 25 years and you wake up one morning and you're like, I don't want this anymore. You know, I actually knew someone like that who said, I don't want to do this anymore. But, like I said earlier in the first lesson that we brought up, it begins with you accepting the act of dishonor against yourself. A lack of self-care is dishonor. It's dishonor to you, When you neglect yourself, you are no good to anybody else. You're no good to yourself. And because my profession is one of giving, I'm a nurse. And so I'm always serving. I'm always giving. When I come home, I'm serving. And so one of the things that I found is when you give, and you don't even take the time for it to be given back to you, bitterness does sit in your heart and you start to resent these things and you start to dislike what you're doing. You come in the kitchen and you're slamming the pot, you're tired and you just need to step back and say, let me get some me time. Yeah. And I love the line that you brought up. I'm actually loving all the lines that you're bringing up because they're actually one of my favorites, even though I wrote them. But it's not selfish. It's self-full. What's in my cup is for me. What overflows is for you.
Yeah,
that's the overflow because I can't give out of an empty cup. Yeah,
that's good. That's good.
So one of I'll say this has to be my favorite one. Lesson 4, rejection is God's protection. So for me, this is something that at 34 years old, I'm finally getting to a point of really taking that in. Like really, when I say taking it, I'm taking it to my heart, I'm taking it to my soul, and really understanding, like you stated in here, you put, remember that many of the rejections, closed doors, and missed opportunities you have faced are not losses. The lost relationship is not a sign of something being wrong with you. It is simply God's protection. It is Him eliminating counterfeits, removing leeches, and guiding you towards His best. And I can say personally for years, up until even recently, I was always like, man, like, what's wrong with me? Like, again, like that, we always think it's us. It's like we always take that, and I always took any kind of rejection like, man, how come it didn't work out for me, or how come this? And it was like, no. And God even told me this like a little while ago, like, no, I'm protecting you. So like I love that. And so honestly, if you could just touch on that for about a couple minutes, just being able to really hear from God, to see that is not he's trying to open a door for you. He's trying to make a way for you, but you have to understand it's not, don't take it personal.
Yeah. I wish I could say that this particular lesson gets easier, but it doesn't. It's it doesn't get easier. For me, I thought when I was dealing with that guy dumping me, that was the worst rejection I'd ever feel. Like, how women, we want to be chosen, as you said, Juanita, we want, and when we're not chosen, we internalize that as something is wrong with us. We rarely ever think, I'm just too good for you. I don't know if that's just, just branding or just how we think in general, but we take rejection personally. It hits us to the core of who we are. But I've learned that just because I've had the experience of God giving me better than what I lost, I've learned that God was protecting me so that I can be ready for what he was bringing in my life, And as I said before, sometimes our first, encounter with rejection comes with, that schoolyard love that, I don't like her. Your hair's too short, whatever. But that really is the foundation upon which I think God wants to build our trust in him. That it's like, first of all, trust that you are uniquely made, that you're wonderfully made, that everything I put in you. And I'm going to share this testimony with you. I grew up having someone really close to me tell me, you will never get married. No one will ever love you. No one will ever like you. And this particular person who was close to me even said, I don't love you. So rejection for me started really early. I'm talking about like 7 years old. So any little thing affected me deeply because I already felt I wasn't good enough, And so these little lessons that I had to learn, whether I lost a job, whether I didn't get a job, whether I didn't, get the boyfriend or whatever, it was really God saying to me, I'm going to show you that you are worth it, that you are worth it. And in every instance of my life, I've been able to look back, as the old folks say, you'll understand it by and by. I've been able to look back and say, thank you, God.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Because that spoke volumes to me about about the rejection. Because so many times, I have suffered with rejection, and I have asked, "What's wrong with me? Why, what's wrong with me?" And that's just something I don't know. Just like you said, if it's something that uh, that every woman say or every woman feel, because women give rejection to men as well, and when a man get in the bed with you and he turn his back to you, that's rejection.
Yeah.
Don't want to have anything to do with you. So rejection can run deep, and in certain situations, it can cause a death. Concerning that person on the inside of you, that something just dies on the inside of you when it comes to rejection. So we got like maybe 15 minutes left. And one thing that I did want to, lesson 39, life is too long to have boring sex.
Yes.
You say have the courage to ask for what you want.
Yes.
Husband or wife. And the next thing you said, you're grateful for a husband. You are grateful for a husband who is selfless and seeks to explore areas that bring you the most pleasure. Talk on those.
Yeah, by the time you're 40, if you have any connection with an older woman, they will tell you, oh my God, when you get 40, you're going to have the best sex of your life. And I remember like at like 29, I think it was like 32 actually. I was like, I don't want to wait to 40 till I have the best sex, I'm like, I don't want to wait, I don't want to just be pleasing you and you ain't pleasing me, And so it started with a conversation within myself. And as I said, I am just blessed. I'm blessed to have an amazing sexual experience with my husband. I'm blessed that he sees me, that it's intimate, that is more than just physical, that it's intimate. Being with someone who wants you, who desires you, that to me makes for great sex. And I do think for women that we have to stop waiting until we're near the end of our life to ask for what we want. It's not just even about sex. What do you want as a woman? What do you need as a woman? And hopefully you have partners or you have people within your life that are willing to meet you at the point of your need. That is really what that chapter is about.
Wow. Wow.
Yes.
Nita, do you have another one? And then we go to Juanita real quick.
Well, this one just goes along with that one. There was lesson 11, have sex in the park.
Yeah.
I thought that was just, I thought it was really beautiful. And, I know you talked about having sex in the park and you had that experience.
Mm-hmm.
But what it did for me, even, within myself, it's like, be as adventurous
Mm-hmm.
as you desire to be,
Mm-hmm.
In your marriage and, and other things,
Mm-hmm.
but, definitely, because you're talking about just you and your husband
Mm-hmm.
going out and exploring these areas,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
doing something, getting out of that box.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we're married.
Yes.
We can do all of this.
Right.
And
Just
so,
don't get caught.
Just don't get caught.
Just don't get caught.
Let's have some experiences,
Yeah.
that makes us both comfortable. And like you said, do it legally.
Do it legally, yes.
Yeah, but go outside in the backyard and while the sun is, the stars are out, there's a full moon, and and just enjoy each other.
Absolutely.
And be as adventurous and explorative, explore and enjoy your lives together.
Yeah.
I thought it was so beautiful because many times people get married, you got the kids, you got the dog, you got the jobs, you got to go to church, you got all these different things that are going on. And then that's why, like you said, you married 25 years and you're like, I'm bored.
Right.
You don't want that. You have to add that spice, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I think you said all that needs to be said about that chapter. I don't think I even have anything to add, but I will say this. Life will progress naturally. We will get older. And one of the things that I love about what Maya Angelou says in this poem that I share in the end, she says, have adventures that you look forward to telling in your old age. And so I look forward to when I'm 60 or 70 years old, sitting on my front porch, drinking tea with my husband saying, you remember that time we went to that park? And that actually happened, just really quickly. My husband was in basic training at the time. And so I hadn't seen him in 2 weeks. And of course, he was feeding. He was like, I can't wait until I get home. And so we drove by a park and he was like, let's go to the park. And I was like, no, you don't know me. No, I'm not going to the park. Child, we went to the park and I'm glad we did.
It made the book, right?
It made it in the book.
There's a book that's 100. I think it's either 100 or 101 ways to have sex.
Oh,
you told me it was 1,001.
Oh, it's 1,001 ways.
Yes.
Oh wow, 1,001 ways. Now I know 1,001 ways to show love or something like that, but sex. Now I gotta look that one up.
Because back in the day, people would go to the drive-in.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't even know if they still even have drive-in. People weren't going there looking at no movies. They were
Right.
going there to enjoy the sexual pleasures of being in the back seat of the car or in the front seat of the car, whichever you prefer. But it was that pleasure of getting out the norm of just being in the house, in the bed. And I it does get boring. That's why a lot of men say, I want to explore something else.
Yes, absolutely. You bring out a critical point. I think that it gets mundane. It really does. Because, I've always said to myself, why do people cheat? I mean, it's really, it's sex. You're going from one partner to the other. I mean, sex is sex, right? But as I've gotten older, I realize it's not. It's not just sex. It's the experience. And we, even as Christian women, one of the things that I've learned, and I even teach this to my daughters, it's okay to be horny. It's okay to want sex. It's okay to want to do it at the park, you know? And I think that we have to bring that spontaneity back, and that, you know, that pursuit of pleasure outside of just what's mundane. And it keeps it fresh, it keeps you young, and it keeps you connected. I think it's a beautiful thing.
Yes. Juanita?
So the last one, and I'm sorry, these just really touch my heart.
Oh.
So it was lesson 21. Marriage doesn't make you happy, you make you happy. Absolutely. And so this is coming from, I've been married and divorced at a really, really young age. And so, but being older now, you know, there does come a time where I was looking like, man, like, I feel like I'm not complete if I'm not married, until God had to really show me, like, no, I make you complete. Like, you need to be complete because of me. And so being able to accept that and stop putting so much hope or faith or all of this boasting into a man and what a marriage is, when you're supposed to find that with God. Whereas a marriage is supposed to be something that adds to the completeness that you've already found in God. Instead of people saying, oh, well, this man makes me complete. He completes me. He makes me whole. And it's that false, what's the way I want to say it? It's that false reality that's been put out there of what marriage is, that if you're single, you're such a bad person, or if you're single, you're not whole. You must be miserable if you're single. And it's like, we have to stop making that be the case, where it's like, you make you happy. Absolutely. Not to put all of that into a man. And so I love that chapter so much, just because it needs to be said more often. Let me say that.
Yeah, and it's true. It's absolutely true. I'm celebrating in November 21 years of marriage. Awesome. And I love my husband deeply. But one of the things that I say, and I get a lot of flack from this, you know, people, they look at me side-eyed when I say this, but I tell them, I don't think you should marry for love.
Right.
Because there's a lot of people that are divorced that still love each other. See, marriage is I believe that marriage completes your purpose, but it doesn't complete your person.
Yes.
And I think that you have to go into marriage whole, and you have to go into it with an understanding of who you are and what God has destined for you to do. And I think you bridging that, of course, yes, marriage is for companionship. You know, it is for us to have, you know, that best friend, you know, that partner where we just go and we can pray and break things, you know, and bring things into our lives together. But I think that it's much more than what we've traditionally framed it to be, as this relationship where you're feeling in love all the time, where this man or this woman completes you. It's just not true. You know, it's just not true. I don't believe that a man can ever complete you as a woman if you are incomplete. Right. I believe that, you know, they add to the completeness, and that together makes marriage rich. And I think that when you go in with the correct perspective, when you correct your perspective, that really sets you up for a successful marriage, because you're not looking for something that marriage cannot or was never meant to provide.
Right.
You know, it was never meant to make you happy all the time. Even if you're single, you're not going to be happy all the time, you know, because happiness is circumstantial. Now we can't have joy. Joy is inspired happiness. It's if it had not been for the grace of God, you know, where would I be? Right. And from that, we have joy, because I realize I live every day in this space. I don't have a great marriage because I did everything right. I don't have a great marriage because Shelton was perfect or is perfect, or because I'm perfect. I have a good marriage because of the grace of God, purely. And I'm so thankful for that. And I'm so humbled by that. But I just wanted to write that chapter because I wanted people to know, even though I have a good marriage, it's not perfect. And I'm not happy all the time. I'm not happy all the time. Shelton is not happy all the time. You're still going to go through things. But when you have a right perspective, it makes all things well.
Yes. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Anybody have anything they want to add?
I want to say this really, really quick. I know we have a short amount of time. I wanted to, we don't have time, but you wrote about your father, and I'm a mama and daddy's girl, so I really related to that. But you said something. You said, "In the presence of great people, be quiet."
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yes.
How many times do we want to say, "Well, I know this, I know
Yes.
that, I've been
Yes.
here, I've been there."
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Be quiet.
Yeah. That for me, that lesson for me was a journey because, as I said, I've had to go through many, many things in my life. And one of them was walking through insecurity because of what I was exposed to early. And so I dealt with this incessant need to prove myself, to prove how intelligent I was, to prove how much I knew, just to prove that I wasn't what people labeled me as. But as I've gotten older, I realized I don't have to prove anything. I don't have to prove anything, and I don't have to add to every conversation. There are people that are smarter than me, thank God. There are people that are more intelligent than me, thank God. And when I'm in the presence of those people, be quiet.
So good.
Yeah.
That's a lesson all by itself.
So good.
How to just be quiet.
Be quiet.
And it can be so hard sometimes because you want to add, "Woo, I can identify with that." But sometimes just
be quiet.
Yeah.
Don't open your mouth and say,
Yes. Yeah. There's another quote that says, it's rather to be thought a fool, than to open your mouth and to prove all doubt.
Isn't that the truth? That's scripture.
Yes.
Proverbs.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
You wrote something in the very back of the book, and it was from Maya Angelou. Angelo, how you say it?
Yes.
Okay. And it said every woman should have enough money with her to her control to move out and rent a place of her own, even if she never wants to or needs to. And she said every woman should have a set of screwdrivers, a cordless drill, and a black lace bra. I was like, a black lace bra. You should have screwdrivers, a cordless drill, and a black lace bra.
Yeah.
One friend who always make her laugh and one who lets her cry. And it said every woman should break up with a lover and confront a friend without ruining the friendship. That goes back to basically, what we was talking about. Breaking up with a friend without ruining the friendship. So I'm just so grateful. I'm just so grateful today for you guys coming and being a part of the show tonight. And Myshica, tell us how. I'm not gonna say that. What one person? Let me ask you this real quick.
Yeah.
What one person who have inspired your life? We got like 3 minutes left, so take 1 minute and tell us about that one person who have really just inspired your life the most.
Wow, I have so many. Oprah says something that I wholeheartedly believe in. She says that we stand as one, but we come as 10,000. And every single person, you and Shanita and Bernard and my husband and my children, and even the drunkard, even people who have less ideal images have inspired my life and has made me the woman that I am today. I come as one, but I really do stand as 10,000. If I had to choose one, though, I would say my father. My father is my hero. And it almost just brings me to tears. He is so graceful and so full of love, yet he's so pragmatic. And if there's one person, even though he only has a fourth grade education, if there's one person at the end of my life that I aspire to be, it would be him. He has taught me how to love even when you've been hurt. He's taught me that nothing is ever a loss if you've learned. And he's taught me that you can learn from anybody and anything. So I would say absolutely, without a doubt, my daddy.
And real quick, one needed, because we're running out of time. Real quick. Well, who in your life has inspired you? Then Nita, real quick. Just one answer, real quick.
Say that again.
Who have inspired your life? Just
Who
one.
inspired my life? Honestly, I would have to jump on board with her and say my dad. I've always been a daddy's girl, and so my dad is the one has always had his faith in me, even when I was lost astray. He was the one that was always holding my hand, always praying with me, and just being that father for me, and never judging me. Even when I was in my darkest hours, he just still had the encouraging words for me. And so I feel like when I got to a point of shifting and being able to walk in my calling, my dad is there pushing me every step of the way, telling me, I knew it was in you. I knew it was in you. So he was there all along, and I mean, really, I was in a dark place now. And so for him to still be right there by my side and not ever judging me, not ever demeaning me. So I really just appreciate everything that my father has always been to me, being that man of God to speak those things that as though they were, even when I wasn't showing any signs of walking in my calling. So I did.
Janita,
Real quick, my parents, hands down, both of my parents. My mom is gone, but I talk to my dad 3 or 4 times a day. And I think I am who I am because of the two of them.
I guess the one person that really, and this is in my old age, that have really inspired my life is my son. Just have really inspired my life. So he's such a go-getter, and he just so enthused about whatever it is that he put his hands to do. He don't quit. He just so positive about whatever he going to do. So he have really inspired my life. And one thing he always say to me, Mom, if I tell you the sky is blue, Mama, believe it, the sky is blue, because I'll never tell you nothing wrong. I'll never lead you wrong. And so that's just so inspiring to me, just to watch him. That's why I go and support him in everything he go to do. Like in the parking lot battles, I go and support him because he's just so gung-ho, and just a go-getter. And he always say this, I never lose. Even though, he may not win, but he never lose. So he just been such an inspiration in my life. And I don't even know why I wanted to know that, y'all, but I just So, Myshica, I want to thank you for being our guest tonight, our special guest around table tonight. And if you want to get in contact with Myshica, contact me at iHeartMinistries at gmail.com. And also, I want to, and y'all, please get her book. Order her book, because the things that we discussed tonight came out of her book. And I tell you, this book is so powerful, y'all. Get the book. Order the book on Amazon, correct?
Yes, thank you.
Order the book off of Amazon, and I'll tell y'all what, y'all will not regret it. Get the book, 40 Years, 40 Lessons. So that's what we've been discussing tonight. I also want to thank Shanita and Juanita for coming and being a part of the show. They take the time out of their own busy schedule with their own children, to come and be a part of the show tonight. So I want to thank those who watch the show nationally and internationally. Thank you for watching the show. And I want you all to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Go to iHeartMinistries on YouTube, Saturday 4.22 guest towns. And until next week, let the peace of God reign, rule, and abide in your hearts. I'm Mildred Towns. Thank you.